Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be going over some interesting PlayStation news. If you enjoy the video or find it informative, drop it a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Now, before I even get into the topic, I want to let you guys know that this is a major rumor. None of this has been confirmed. This isn't coming from Sony or Naughty Dog themselves. This is just coming from someone on Twitter. So, over on Twitter, there's this guy called Rythian. Now, I've never heard of this guy before until today. And apparently he's some video game analyst. So I don't know if he works for Sony or for a game developer or if he just reviews games. I have no idea. So on Twitter, he said this: The Last of Us Part 2, the most awarded game of the year title of all time, is getting a proper PS5 version later this year. I'm not talking a remaster, I'm talking new engine plus full PS5 graphical fidelity. It will be free to those that own the PS4 version. The thought of The Last of Us Part 2 getting a PS5 version is, it's kind of obvious, like that's going to happen. If they're going to do a PS5 version for Death Stranding and for Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man, then they're obviously going to do a PS5 version for Part 2. So as far as this tweet goes, I agree with it 100%, except for the fact that he says that they're going to be doing it in a whole new engine. I don't really know if I buy that because Naughty Dog made a whole new engine just for The Last of Us Part 2. So it doesn't really make sense for them just 2 years later to make a whole new engine. Maybe he's talking about like it's the same engine but just like upgraded for the PS5 to take advantage of it. Maybe he's talking about that. And that's kind of what I believe. I feel like it's still the same engine, but just like a better version of it. I don't see why they would make a whole new engine because, the engine that made The Last of Us Part 2 is obviously very, very impressive, even compared to the best looking PS5 games. And then also in this tweet, he says that it's going to be free for people that own the PS4 version. Now, I know that whenever it came to the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, I'm pretty sure it was like if you already owned Uncharted 4 or The Lost Legacy, then you only had to pay like $10 to get the PS5 version. Now, I do believe either this version will be free if you already own the game on the PS4. Now, obviously, it would be on the PlayStation Store. You're not going to be able to go to like Walmart and get a free copy of, Part 2 on PS5. So I do feel like it'll either be free or maybe like $10 if you already own Part 2 already. Now, moving on to the next tweet that this guy said, it's specifically talking about Factions 2 and the future of it, because he says Factions Part 2 isn't included, talking about it being part of the PS5 version of Part 2, which I do agree. So it's going to be a separate purchase for PS4, PS5, and PC in early 2023. Now, this is very important because I do believe everything he's saying in this tweet, because obviously it's going to come out on PS4 and PS5. Now, when it comes to the PC, I feel like it should release day and date on PC regarding Factions 2. Now, I know, like, going back to the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, obviously that's for PS5 only and PC, but I'm pretty sure it still hasn't released for PC. But Sony wants Factions 2 to be their own, like Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG, stuff like that. Like, they want it to be really massive in the multiplayer space. So of course it's going to come in PC. It's just whether or not is it going to launch day and date, or is it going to come out on PC like 6 months after it launches on PlayStation, or a year. I feel like it would be in Sony's best interest to launch it day and date on PC. And as far as it releasing in early next year, I also agree with that, because I feel like the only things we're going to be getting as far as Last of Us related content this year would be Last of Us Remake and a Part 2 PS5 version. And then early next year, or the first half of next year, we would get Factions 2. So when it comes to this tweet itself, I fully agree with it 100%. Now, moving on to what I believe is the most interesting tweet that this guy posted. Now, this is regarding the entire future of Naughty Dog for PS5. So his tweet says, upcoming The Last of Us Remake with visual arts as lead, The Last of Us Part 2 PS5, The Last of Us Part 2 Factions, which those three we've already talked about, so I'm not going to go over it again. But these last three are very interesting. It says The Last of Us Part 3, new IP, and Uncharted 5 with another studio as lead. So going to talk about The Last of Us Part 3, obviously, in my mind, that is 100% going to happen. I feel like, I don't know when that game's going to come out. It just depends on whether or not they're working on it right now or if they decided to go with a new IP. I have no idea. We won't know until like actual more information comes out regarding those games. So I do believe that is 100% going to happen. We just don't know. Now, when it comes to a new IP, obviously Naughty Dog is going to make a new IP. They're not just going to keep making Last of Us games and Uncharted and Jak and Daxter or whatever. Like, they're going to make a new IP. And I hope they do. Like, me personally, I hope they make Part 3 and then a new IP. But I feel like what's most likely going to happen is they make a new IP and then they make The Last of Us Part 3. And also, something very interesting this guy said regarding Part 3 and a new IP is that apparently Neil Druckmann is going to oversee both of those games, but he's not going to be directing either of them. Now, when it comes to Neil not directing the new IP, I don't really care. That kind of makes sense because he's now co-president. He's not just like a director or, like whatever his previous job title was. But in my opinion, when it comes to The Last of Us Part 3, Neil Druckmann has to direct the game. Like, if it wasn't for Neil Druckmann, then The Last of Us wouldn't exist. So not only did he create The Last of Us, he directed the first game and then he directed Part 2. So it doesn't make sense for him to not direct Part 3. Now, if it's something where like a new director comes in and Neil sits down with them and like it's Neil's vision, it's Neil's story, but it's someone else coming in and putting like the pieces together, but it's still like Neil's story, then that I would be okay with, because I mean Neil does have more responsibilities in the company because he's now, he's pretty much the boss of Naughty Dog alongside Evan Wells. He doesn't really have a boss anymore except for like Jim Ryan and stuff. But so yeah, now moving on to Uncharted 5. Now, I don't know how I feel about another Uncharted. Me personally, I feel like I don't really want to see another Uncharted. Of course, it would be fun to play. I would buy it. But I feel like they wrapped up Nathan Drake's story perfectly with the last game, or with Uncharted 4, I should say. And I just, even though, like, without Nathan Drake, Uncharted to me wouldn't be the same, and then it also says that another studio is going to lead the game. So it won't even be coming from Naughty Dog. Like, the same thing with The Last of Us. Unless it's Naughty Dog, I don't really want another Uncharted game, because, I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to be a horrible game, but it just won't be the same, because that magical touch that comes from Naughty Dog and only Naughty Dog, it just wouldn't be there. And even if it was Naughty Dog making Uncharted 5, and they were bringing back Nathan Drake, and it was another adventure, I just don't really see the point besides, like, a cash grab. I just don't think it makes sense from a story perspective. I wouldn't be as interested as, like, a new IP or The Last of Us Part 3. And so yeah, that's pretty much the last thing he talks about when it comes to the future of Naughty Dog and what they're making for the PS5. So yeah, I mean, when it obviously comes to The Last of Us Remake, Part 2 for the PS5, Factions 2, those things are 100% going to happen, and they're going to come out whether or not it's this year or next year. Like, it's going to happen, and I believe Part 3 is going to happen. They're obviously going to make a new IP, but the Uncharted 5 thing is where I'm really like, I don't know if I believe this guy, but I want to, and that's pretty much why I'm making this video. But what do you guys think? Down below, let me know your thoughts on all these rumors on apparently all these games that Naughty Dog is working on for the PS5. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, drop it a like and consider subscribing if you're new by turning on the post notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. Until next time, guys, take care.